Hello fellow YouTubers, this is N0AGI. I thought I'd do a short video about my WiRES-X node. I'm in the process of converting my WiRES-X node to all digital. Obviously with the current version of the DR1X firmware and the WiRES-X firmware and the software, there's no possibility to convert the DR1X and WiRES-X together as a digital, fully functional digital node. So what I've done is I've separated the WiRES-X from the DR1X. So the DR1X is now functioning just as a repeater in a completely auto mode, and the WiRES-X has been moved over to my FTM 400. Basically, it's the same cable that used to connect the WiRES-X HRI 200 to the DR1X. It's exactly the same 10 to 10 pin cable, and I hooked that up to FTM 400 instead. I wanted to cover the steps I had to take to make this all digital WiRES-X node. Now, for all practical purposes, the DR1X is completely decoupled from WiRES-X now. So this is functioning only as a auto repeater. And additionally, the WiRES-X software is currently set up to run as all digital, and it is connected to the FTM 400 like I was saying earlier. So for testing purposes, I'm connected to my room here to 1191, and we'll use this for our demonstration today. Over here I have the head unit of the FTM 400 currently set up to function as a HRI 200 interface, as you can tell here, and I'll show you how to enable that. So the radio is not available for any transmission or changing the frequency to any other stations per se. It's fairly locked into the frequency of my repeater at this point in time. Really what's only available is changing the display brightness, contrast, and switching the display on and off, and perhaps changing the squelch level are the only functions that are available when your FTM 400 is in HRI 200 mode. I have three HTs here. The first one is, let's see if I can get a, there you go. The first one is currently set up as a digital handset, and actually it is currently connected to my FTM 400's WiRES-X node by the use of the DX button here, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, the second radio is currently set up as a an auto digital node, meaning if someone comes in and talks to the frequency in an FM mode, this radio is programmed or set up to receive that conversation, and when talking from this radio, it will respond back in an FM mode also. So that's how this radio is set up. Last but not least, I have a third radio here in an analog mode. So we have three flavors. I'd like to use each of these radios and see how they behave when coming into the repeater and then coming into the WiRES-X node through the FTM 400. I'll be right back. So let's talk about first off how the DR1X is set up. It's set up to run as an auto mode. So both digital and FM analog traffic is addressed and serviced by this mode. Let's talk about this here. When we say auto, you can change it to incoming automatic, meaning it could come in as FM or digital or whatever, and the outgoing could be FM, rather could be analog or digital or whatever. So you could change this to be fixed and going out as FM or analog, meaning no matter what comes in, be it analog or digital, the outgoing is always going to be analog. Of course, in my case, I'd like to change it back to auto. So we talked about how to enable the FTM 400 in a HRI 200 mode, and the way you do that is by holding down the DX button and the GM button together while you power on the device. And basically what that does, it puts the FTM 400 in a controlled mode, and it is controlled by the WiRES-X software. So basically whatever frequency you have set up to be your node's frequency and its settings are essentially applied to your FTM 400 in the HRI 200 mode. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to go back to the default settings, and I'll show you how that reflects into the WiRES-X software, and I'll show you how to re-enable it back. So for now, because it's set up in the HRI 200 digital mode, the WiRES-X software is currently in digital mode and the on-air button is not locked. Typically, if your HRI 200 is not connected to the radio that's digital capable, you would see the on-air button being locked. Okay. So right now I switched back the FTM 400 to the default boot up so that it's not in HRI 200 mode anymore. So what that did is, if you go back into the WiRES-X software, it says, hey, yeah, you asked me to be in digital mode, but I can't see or I can't hear, I can't interface a radio that's digital enabled. So you find this on-air locked, and despite you clicking on it, it doesn't really change because it has no interface to a radio that's digital capable. So I'm actually clicking right now and it doesn't want to change. Note that the WiRES-X software also is set up to be in digital mode. Let's go into the file transceiver, and currently I have enabled a digital mode, right? And so the frequency is that, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so let's go back to the FTM 400, and what we'd like to do is press the DX button, the GM button together while we power on the receiver. So let's do that. First off, let's power it off, and I'm going to hold down the DX and the GM button together while I power up. Actually, that's not, yeah, hang on, I didn't press the buttons properly. It has to make the 3 musical tones. Yep, that's the way to. So right now it's in the digital mode that didn't change, and it's in the HRI 200 mode. So right now, and I can't, none of these touch operations are possible. The only thing that's possible is you can change the brightness by turning the top dial further down like so. It changes the brightness and brings it back up. That beep noise there tells you that's a default value. And then likewise the bottom, you can reduce the contrast to the bottom one also. Okay, and then you can change the squelch setting for the top and the bottom like so. Oh, let's press it again. So as you can tell, You can change the squelch value. I'm gonna leave it to 1. Likewise here, the bottom, leave it to 1. So that's after you're done with squelch setting, you can press it back to whatever the default. So right now, the FTM400 is set up to be DN digital node in HRI 200 mode. And if you go back to your WiRES-X software, that had automatically enabled itself, because now it knows that it is hooked up to a radio that knows how to talk digitally. So the on-air button is enabled. Alright, so that's that. So let's go back to these radios and see how they work. Right, so here let's talk about the first radio. The first radio is set up to be in digital mode. I'm going to carry this over to the WiRES-X software so you can see simultaneously how this works. So when I click on the PTT here, what happens is your FTM400 receives it, and it's then processed by the WiRES-X software. Of course, it goes to the repeater first, and then it gets relayed to the FTM400. So let's start with the DR1X repeater first. When I click on the PTT, as you can tell, it is being processed as a digital node. Both the auto and auto remain in the auto normal, and which makes sense because this is in a digital mode. Okay, now what happens is when it goes into the FTM400, you will notice that, let me click on the PTT quick. As you can tell, the FTM400, because of the virtue of the WiRES-X software, is able to recognize the device as the /9 radio coming in, and it is able to do that because of the digital node nature of the radio. So let's go into the WiRES-X software. When I click on the PTT here, what happens is when I click on it, as you can tell, the WiRES-X software is recognizing the incoming node as /9, and it shows up in the window, the connection window. So when I let go of the PTT, it disappears because that is no longer in the conversation loop. I'd like to connect to my WiRES-X node right from my FT1D. I can click on the DX button and hold it down for a couple of seconds, and then the X flashes, and then it says connected to the room number. So right now I'm in WiRES-X mode, connected to my WiRES-X station, and the room it's connected to is that. And the beauty of this is, because it's now in the WiRES-X mode on my handset, I should be able to traverse through the messages, through the newscast, through the other rooms that are available for me to connect right from my FT1D, which makes it really cool. When I PTT in, and let's see if we can capture that. There's no difference here per se. You're still part of the WiRES-X node. Now the difference you'll see here is you are now able to, when I click on the enter button, see what happens. Now what it's doing, it's going and fetching the news stations from my WiRES-X node, and it's displaying those options for me to select. And that's another video altogether, but I just wanted to kind of show you the power of WiRES-X on your digital mode, which is phenomenal. when YAESU comes up with this new release of the software, I think we'll see even more magic come in from its capabilities, I'm hoping, because there's a lot of potential here from a digital mode standpoint. Alright, so that's the connectivity demo between the FT1D in digital mode through the WiRES-X software that's running in digital mode. Alright, so let me pause here and I'll be right back. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you one more thing. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you earlier. On my left is the FT1D that's in digital mode, and it is connected through my WiRES-X node, and you can tell that by looking at the X at the top left hand corner, and it is connected to my room, as you can tell from there. On the right here is an AMS digital node mode FT1D. It is not currently connected to my WiRES-X, but it is in digital mode. So what happens is when I key in my digital node radio, just watch the right hand side of the radio screen. As you can tell, you are able to see who just keyed in from that call sign display. What you're able to see there is the relay between the repeater and the handset, which is /9, and the repeater is /R, which is pretty cool. And so when you're having conversations with your buddies or whoever, and then when someone keys in, you're able to quickly identify who keyed in and their details, etc. Alright, so that's the DN mode connectivity workflow demo. Alright, here's my second FT1D that's currently in AMS mode, meaning it's able to receive both analog and digital, and is able to also transmit in both analog and digital depending on who he is sending it to. So if an analog device came in last, when I key in, I will be keying in FM or analog mode, so I can go back to that origination station and have a conversation with him or her. Let's give that a quick demo. If you see that the little pipe symbol or a block symbol, that's the icon for AMS digital mode, so it can receive both FM and analog and digital. So here I have the two radios, the analog only and the AMS digital. So when I key in on the analog radio, this radio will pick it up because it's set up to be AMS. So let's have a quick look at it. Notice how the right hand side radio switches the mode to FM. I'm going to respond back to this analog call that I received last by keying this radio in. As you can tell, the mode that it is in right now is in FM AMS mode. So when I key in, it'll respond, it'll transmit in FM mode so that this radio can receive that. So let's start. So that's a quick short demo. Now when I key in from a digital radio, like for example this one, and let's see what happens. I'm going to key this in now and watch the right hand side of the radio. As you can tell, it changed its mode to DN mode, and it shows who just keyed in, which is this radio here. So that's the beauty of this AMS mode, where it can service both digital only node like this one here and analog only node like this one here. It's able to service and talk to both of these modes fairly seamlessly. Alright, and not only that, it can talk, but it can also exchange the digital data coming in from the digital radio, and it can transmit digital data to the digital radio. So this mode is really cool. Now when it comes to the analog only mode, let's pick that up and let's go over to the DR1X and see how that behaves. Alright, so that's good. Alright, so now if I key in my radio, keep an eye on the DR1X. So it had switched itself to FM receive and FM transmit, and it serviced, when I say it, I'm talking about DR1X, it serviced the radio's key in, which is pretty slick. Now the DR1X is in the AMS FM mode, and whoever keys in next, it'll change it back to that format or that mode fairly seamlessly. While the analog mode is really cool because majority of the ham radio enthusiasts still carry analog devices. However, you miss out on a lot of the digital capabilities in a analog mode. In a digital mode, you're able to take advantage of all the digital capabilities, which are more than what I can cover in this video. At the same time, it misses out on having a conversation vehicle with the analog folks. The AMS mode serves both the purposes really well. However, with the AMS mode, you can only be in AMS, but once you join the AMS node to a WiRES-X software node, I believe you will completely dislog yourself from the analog communication, but let's give that a shot. So I'm going to pick up my AMS device, and I could be wrong here. Let me click on the DX button a couple of seconds. Let's go into the WiRES-X here, and I'm going to click on the DX button a couple of seconds. So now it is connected to the WiRES-X room, as you can tell from here with the X and the name of the room it's connected to. Now it's in digital only mode, as you can tell here, meaning because you're in a WiRES-X room that's digital only, this AMS radio that used to be able to talk to both digital and analog radios has momentarily switched itself to a digital only radio. So what happens is when I now key in, you can communicate with other digital radios, as you can tell from the call sign out there. However, nothing happens here. When you get this radio sees that someone is keying in, but they are not able to hear anything because this guy is only transmitting in digital mode. Alright? And the way you get out of the DX mode is by clicking on the DX button again. Alright? Now this radio is in digital, but you have to go back to the AMS mode. Well, it's a difficult demo to do, but I hope this was helpful. I had to do this demo just for my own reference purposes, because I tend to forget how I set them all up, and this is a good reference material for me, just for my own self-edification and memory purposes. So I hope this was useful to you also, and if there are any comments or questions, please do drop them. And I'm going to leave the FTM 400 and my WiRES-X connected to each other in digital only mode, and I'm going to leave my WiRES-X running in digital only mode also, because I want to give that a shot. There are a few digital only stations in the WiRES-X catalog. I'm going to see if I can experiment with them and see how that shakes. Alright, this is N0AGI. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.